Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Isaiah, the 34th chapter, God's wrath against nations. And in this chapter, Isaiah is prophesying about a future judgment that would come upon the world, primarily targeting the nation of Edom, and their, at least from his time, future dwelling place, which we've come to know today as America, or otherwise referred to as Babylon in the scriptures. And so what Isaiah does is he likens this destruction onto a sacrifice, that the Lord is going to do. More than likely, that's probably how the Lord showed it to him. But in any case, he describes how the Lord is going to destroy this place onto a sacrifice, right? He likens it onto a sacrifice. So this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 34, verse 1. Come near, ye nations, to hear and hearken, right? To give heed, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world, and all things that come forth of it. Which is to say, the whole world is going to bear witness to this, right? They're going to be an audience to view or to see the wrath or the indignation of the Heavenly Father. Verse 2, for the indignation of the Lord Yahweh is upon all nations. And the reason it says that, even though the primary target here is Esau, is similar to why the time of all hell breaking loose, a time like never before, is known in the scriptures as Jacob's trouble, but it's not going to be isolated to only Israelites that are going to be suffering the calamities. Because when the Lord unleashes his wrath, the whole earth, the whole planet is going to feel it. Of course, certain parts are more so going to be destroyed than others, but the world in its entirety is going to experience the wrath of the day of the Lord. That's why it mentions his indignation being upon all nations and his fury upon all their armies. He hath utterly destroyed them. He hath delivered them to the slaughter. And that's in the Old English. In other words, that's what the Lord is going to do, right? He's going to completely and utterly destroy them. And we're going to see that manifest, all right? But there's many other precepts that also line up with this. 2nd Ezra 13 is an example, along with other precepts. And why does it mention their armies here? Because they're going to fight against the Lord during this time, right? When the Most High starts bringing these judgments, and then he sends his son back, the armies of the world are going to band together to try and prevent him from taking over. Verse 3, their slain also shall be cast out. What that means is they're not, the dead are not going to be buried. And their stink shall come up out of their carcasses. And why is that? Once again, when somebody dies and you don't bury their body, it's going to start to rot and it's going to start to smell. And there's a reason why you bury the body in the earth, because then it's able to break down. And on top of that, you close up the earth. So it's not on the surface of the earth. So there's no scent or anything of that sort. And the mountains shall be melted with their blood. And another word here for that melted is like to be drenched or covered with their blood. And that just signifies or puts emphasis on how destructive or how much death is going to come as a result of this judgment. And given the nature of how a lot of these people are going to die, when the Lord really brings this nuclear or this fire, let me call it that, there isn't going to be room to be burying people. Yes, leading up to that point, you're going to have people that are dying of famine, people that are dying of diseases, people that are dying of physical injuries, being shot or stabbed or whatever the case is. But when you have people being burned with fire, there's no room to be burying bodies here. Especially out on the land like Babylon. Verse 4, and all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll. Okay, so now in this time when this third world war is taking place, because that is how it's going to manifest, right? The way the Lord is going to turn this place into, or once he prepares the altar, right, metaphorically speaking, and the sacrifice is ready, it's been cut up, the parts that are to be put upon the altar have been laid and ready. The fire that's going to be set in reality is going to be from the World War III, right? From the missiles that are shot off. Those are going to be, that's what the fire of this altar represents. And the sacrifice represents the people. And the altar represents the land. So that the way that this vision is going to manifest is by the Lord having these nations enter that war. It escalates, it gets to the point of them shooting nuclear missiles at each other. And then that leads to that whole burning, along with the Lord coming back with the heavenly hosts. So I make that point to say that at this time, the hosts that are going to be in heaven here are you're going to have the chariots, right, of the angels and so on. You're going to also have the angels, quote unquote, of Esau, Edom, that are going to be flying through the skies and so on, right? And they're the ones that are really going to begin destroyed, okay, from the heavens, as I think it's in Revelation 12 that their place was found no more in heaven, both from a rulership perspective, but also in a literal sense of their fighter jets and whatever aircrafts they may have. Because you best believe when they have you have chariots flying through the skies, they're not just going to be trying to shoot them down from the ground. They're going to deploy all sorts of aircrafts to go up there and battle with them in the heavens. So as it says here, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll. Now, what Isaiah witnessed, or what he saw that made him describe it this way, was a mushroom cloud, which we all know what a mushroom cloud looks like, right? Mushroom. All right, so this is one example. This is another example. This is another example. So when you look at something like this versus a scroll, let's put that. Or a rolled up scroll. This is what he is looking at, right? And the reason is because typically when you have like a scroll that's rolled up, it's bound in the center, right? So it gives this sort of bending shape in the center, and then the outside part of it looks like, it's almost flaring out a bit. So this is what came to his mind when he saw this, okay, or this. It looked like a scroll that's been rolled together in the heavens, because back then there was no such thing as a mushroom cloud, at least. It's like no terminology like that. So where are we at? Verse 4, and all their hosts shall fall down as the leaf falleth from off the vine, and as a falling fig from the fig tree, right? So when you look at this time, the only things that are going to be in the skies are, like I said, you're going to have the angels, you're going to have the Esau's crafts, right? And of course, the missiles that are flying. Okay, and yeah, we know the missiles are going to be raining down, but the hosts or the armies that are going to be falling are not going to be the angels. Okay, it's going to be the armies of the nations that go up there to try to fight against the Lord, and they're going to begin destroyed and pulverized up there. So you can already see, because you're gonna remember, it's like a war, right? It's not, everything is not happening instantly. It's not going to be like 2 seconds and then everything is just fire, right? It's gonna escalate. Missiles are going to hit different parts of the land, right? And then as they're continuing to hit different parts, you have that fire, or that sea like fire that is forming, basically engulfing and swallowing up the land. So in the midst of that, when they first see Yahweh Shai with the angels return, they're going to start fighting against them. All right, that's in 2nd Ezra 13. And as they do that, they're going to lose utterly. Verse 5, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven. And also what comes to mind here is John, right? The Apostle John also described in Revelation the falling of the missiles, right? To like, I believe he described it as a fig tree as well, that was blown of a mighty wind. Verse 5, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, and bathed in heaven, meaning like, you know, the word bathed is more like saturated, right? And why is that? The sword here of the Lord is referring to these missiles, and they are his sword, even though they were invented by men, right? The Lord put the thought into their minds of those men and their bosses to give them that order to make those for his purpose. So they are his weapon or his sword. And when you look at how specifically these intercontinental ballistic missiles work, is they're launched at an angle, all right, and they fly up into the heavens, and then they rain down upon the earth in the specific region which they are targeting. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea. So that's where you get the visual of the missiles coming down. And the Idumea here, which Idumea is the Greek way of saying Edom, and or another way of saying Edom. And we know that the land primarily here that is going to come down upon is Babylon, not exclusive to Babylon, because there are other precepts that points towards the land of Israel also being cleansed. Okay, but right now the focus here in this chapter is mainly dealing with Babylon. It says, and upon the people of my curse to judgment. See, so they are the cursed of the Lord, and this destruction is going to come upon them as a form of judgment. The sword of the Lord Yahweh is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats. So signifying the metaphorical sacrifice, because when you brought the sacrificial animals, they would have to be slain, right? They would actually be cut up. And then, you know, depending on what type of sacrifice it was, they would be parted asunder, right? Certain parts of the body, the inside, to be removed and used for different purposes. So Isaiah is mentioning here the sword of the Lord being filled with blood, meaning it's gonna do a lot of damage, right? It's gonna as it says in 2nd Ezra, the 5th chapter, there's gonna come a time when the people of the world are gonna be taken in great number. That means that there's gonna be a lot of death. And with the blood of lambs and goats, and with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For the Lord Yahweh hath a sacrifice in Basra. So the modern day Basra would be here in America. And the lambs, the goats, the rams, these are the people. Okay, because you know, you're gonna have the fire which is coming from the missiles burning the land, or the hitting this place. Well, what's gonna be getting sacrificed on here? It's gonna be the people. It says here, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea, and the unicorns shall come down with them. When you go into the word unicorn here, I believe it mentions it's a specific type of either a ram or a some form of a bull or bullock, probably the great aurochs or wild bulls, which are now extinct. The exact meaning is unknown, and they were likely it was likely translated as unicorn due to the type of horn that they had. But as it says, the unicorn shall come down with them, and the bullocks with the bulls. Their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness, right? Meaning the land being saturated with the fat from the sacrifice. And what that's signifying is how great of a sacrifice it's going to be. So the greater the sacrifice in here, and when it manifests, the greater the death. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. So the Lord is doing this as a to take his vengeance for all the wickedness that has been done on the face of the planet Earth, and as a recompense, right, for those that have harmed his chosen nation, right, for the controversy of Zion, which is another name for Israel. And the streams thereof shall be turned into pitch, and the dust thereof into brimstone. And that's going to be done by way of the nuclear missiles, right? Because, you know, a stream of water does not just turn into pitch, right? Pitch is like burning tar, right? That kind of substance. So a stream of water is not just going to turn into pitch, but when you have the missiles hitting with how hot they are, millions of degrees, one, it's gonna basically dry up those different bodies of water, and it's gonna start to burn into the land, right? And if you have whether it's like oil reserves or anything under the land, that's also gonna come up into the earth and start getting burned. You have roads that are made of this pitch-like substance, which is like the tar and the asphalt and all that. And so all that plus the chemicals or the elements from the missiles themselves burning up, right, is going to create that dark like substance as it's burning, okay, which Isaiah sees here and describes as you know, one place where it may be, you know, a stream of water is it basically turned into what looks like pitch, right, and the dust thereof into brimstone, which brimstone is was it sulfur when you look into it, which is highly flammable, and the land thereof shall become burning pitch, right, once again, and that's flammable, okay, but it's going to be done because of this high heat from the missiles, because those missiles, we're talking millions of degrees, so they're burning through rock, they're burning through land, they're burning through buildings, people, cars, okay, roads, the ground, they're burning pretty much everything. And that's why at the end, when this, you know, judgment is set, and, you know, everything calms down, everything here on this region is going to be basically disintegrated. It's going to be brought back to, you know, like the base form. Verse 10, it shall not be quenched night nor day, meaning the fire. So what that means is nobody's going to come and put out the fire. The smoke thereof shall go up forever, from generation to generation, it shall lie waste. Now, this fire is not going to burn for all eternity. Okay, when you look into the word here, forever, it's letting you know it's the smoke is going to go up forever. The Hebrew word there is iwalam, which when you go into the definition of that can mean a duration of time, all right, or an age or a period, right? So iwalam. So you have here one of the definitions is long duration, right, or futurity, forever, everlasting, evermore, perpetual. So there's different uses here of an age or time, right? You have unending, you have indefinite, you have everlasting, but you also have a long duration. And as we keep on reading, we'll see why it is this place is not going to burn for all eternity. So as it mentions here, the smoke is going to go up, right, forever, from generation to generation. It shall lie waste, right? It's going to be a wasteland. None shall pass through it forever and ever. So now this part, none shall pass through it forever and ever, is it links up with, I believe it's Isaiah 13, right? And what that means is nobody's going to come to this land to come in and dwell here, right? Or to like turn this place into whether it's a temporary abode or start to rebuild back here. And when you actually go into the word ever in this part, so we had the first one, which is iwalam, but as it says, none shall pass through it forever and ever. The word here is natzach, which is perpetuity, right? Enduring, everlastingness. So this word here is more so of like an eternal thing. So nobody is ever going to come back here and actually, you know, dwell here or make this like a habitation. And when you go into the word perpetual, right, it's pretty much unending. Verse 11, but the cormorant and the bittern shall possess it, which is the land. Now, if the fire was to burn here forever, for all eternity, how would these animals possess the land or come and dwell here? Right? It says the owl also and the raven shall dwell in it. They're not going to be able to dwell in fire if it's continuously burning. So it's going to burn for a long time. Eventually, right? The smoke is also going to be going up for a long time, but eventually the fire is going to die. And then, it becomes like a habitation now where you have these some mostly unclean animals and so on creeping up in here and starting to dwell here. Because remember, the main land we're talking about here is North America, right? But you still have different lands that are bordering it or that are nearby it, where you still have life over there. So though the life on this part, North America, gets destroyed and wiped out, you're gonna have creatures that'll eventually start to make their way here after the fire dies down from the neighboring lands. And that's where you have the different animals that are mentioned here. It says here, and he shall stretch upon it, he shall stretch out upon it the line of confusion and the stones of emptiness. And usually the line, which is used to measure, right, and the stones, these are tools or ways of construction, of building. But here, if you notice, it says the line of confusion, right? And when you go into that word confusion, let's see what it says there. It says formless, right? Emptiness, formlessness, wasteland, wilderness, place of chaos. Okay, so the Lord is not, he's not going to construct or build this place. He's going to deconstruct it, right? Which is why it mentions the line of confusion. So as to where when you're building and you measure, okay, this is going to go here, this is going to go here. If this is New York State, this is where its border is. Then you have Jersey right here. Then you got to cross this bridge. But the line of confusion or chaos or wasteness the Lord is going to stretch upon it is going to be the reverse of that. So no more you're going to see this land and be able to identify, okay, this was New York. This is where the border is. You pass here. This is the George Washington Bridge. This is the Statue of Liberty here and yada, yada. It's all going to be gone. You can't measure anything on here because it's just all that is going to become just a wasteland, a desert. Right. And similarly, as it says, the stones of emptiness, which is like void. There's no building. There's no cornerstone. There's none of that. Verse 12, they shall call the nobles thereof to the kingdom, but none shall be there. And all her princes shall be nothing. Why? Because their kingdom is going to be destroyed. And those of the nobles of this world that survive are going to be rounded up and taken into captivity. And thorns shall come up in her palaces, nettles and brambles, once again, thorns, briars, in the fortresses thereof. And it shall be an habitation of dragons and of a court of owls. And these kinds of animals, as it's describing, are ones that can survive or live in this kind of environment, right? Where it's not like the freshest of the greenest of lands, right? So it's not mentioning, animals that are highly dependent upon that. Okay, but more so like certain unclean birds, right? Certain reptiles, certain desert creatures. And some of them, when you go into the words there, they don't, even in the blue letter, they don't give you an accuracy of it. But, one interesting thing is when you go into the words here for dragons, it says here, Tanyan, dragon, serpent, sea monster, dragon or dinosaur, sea or river monster, serpent, venomous snake. Right now, if you have a sea monster, right, I doubt a sea monster is going to try to live on land. But there are a couple of definitions here. It's not even, like I said, the translators or the blue letter doesn't have it in its entirety to say what exact nature it's going to be, but we know it's going to be probably along the lines of some of these animals that can dwell here. right? Some of the translations or the definitions here is a jackal, right, or a land monster. That's probably why they put dinosaur. Now, what's interesting is I think I've seen this Hebrew word before back in Genesis. Let's take a look. Yep, Genesis 1:21, great whales. And when you go into that word, and that word great whales, right, that it goes into like the when the Lord was creating the different kinds of animals, that's when you get to like the kinds of behemoth slash leviathan slash that kind of category. So I mean, in process of time, when this happens, we'll find out exactly what kind of animals will be here. But we know nonetheless, the moral of the chapter is this is going to be post the destruction of this place. It says here, the wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow, and the screech owl also shall rest there, which I believe the word satyr goes into like a type of goat, and find for herself a place of rest. So once, however long that takes, where this land is done being burned, right, and it becomes a habitation of these kinds of creatures, right, they're going to start to slowly move in here and start dwelling here. Verse 15, there shall the great owl make her nest and lay and hatch and gather under her shadow, right, which is what the mother does when it's hatching the eggs. There shall the vultures also be gathered, every one with her mate, right? We all know what a vulture is, basically an unclean bird. So Isaiah has described this vision that he has seen, right? Verse 16, seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. No one of these things shall fail. So the book of the Lord, we have it today called the Bible, right? But it's really a compilation of the writings, the visions, right? All the things that Lord had basically revealed to our people to be recorded down. So Isaiah is saying, seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read, because that's where these visions and these prophecies are written. These prophecies that, as he goes on to say, no one of these shall fail, meaning not one is going to be lacking. And Habakkuk says the same thing in a roundabout way, right? When he mentions it shall come, it shall not tarry. And let me actually get it so I don't butcher it. So Habakkuk. What is it? Verse 3, where it says, but at the end it shall speak and not lie, right? When you go into that word lie, it is, as it says here, to be proven to be lying, to disappoint, fail, meaning the visions that were seen, when they come to pass, they're going to be exactly as they were prophesied. It won't be a false vision, right? Or something that's vain. And similarly, as it says, as Isaiah is saying, not one of these are going to fail. Let's go into that word fail. All right, it says to help, to be lacking, okay, or to fail. So it's gonna, these visions that they received that were recorded down are gonna be fulfilled. They're gonna occur just as they've been written. None shall want her mate, for my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them. Now keep in mind, and what that means is it's none of these are going to be lacking, right? Like this, the words in this book are not going to be lacking some complement, like how you would have like an animal, a mate of an animal, like say a male cow, right? Or a bull would be a female cow, right? So that's the mate that it is lacking or that it is wanting for. But when it comes to the words written in here, there's nothing that's lacking. There's nothing that needs a complement, right, to support the words written in here. So as it says, for my mouth it hath commanded, the mouth of the Lord, and his spirit, the spirit of the Lord, it hath gathered them. Okay, and ultimately, who is it that was gathered? Because remember, the subject now in verses 16 and 17 are the words of the Lord, or the book of the Lord, right? And so who has the Spirit of the Lord gathered? His elect, by the words of the book, being prophesied and being taught. Verse 17, and he hath cast the lot for them, and his hand hath divided it unto them by line. Now, when you look at some of these other translations, they try to attribute the 17th verse to referring to the land, but we know that that really wouldn't make too much sense, because we read up above that nobody's is gonna pass through the land, right? Nobody's gonna come here and dwell here. So why would the Lord divide this land up for us if it's gonna be a land that's destroyed, never to be inhabited again? Now, what the Lord will do is the possessions or the land of Esau Edom, who was the ruler of this land, will be given to us, and we're talking about the ones over there in the east, right? We shall possess them. That goes also into their inheritance, their land. But in here, as I mentioned before, the subject being what's still in verse 16, which is the words of the book, right? Or the book of the Lord. So as it says, he hath cast the lot for them, right? Measured, and his hand hath divided it unto them by line, meaning by measure. Okay. And that's why when you read in the book of the Lord, as Isaiah mentioned, each portion, right, or each part of the book has been portioned or measured, okay, by obviously visions that were given to certain men, and so on and so forth. It wasn't all at once with one individual or all at once with another, but it was portioned and measured accordingly. And what that led to is us having, or as it's going to go into, they shall possess it forever, from generation to generation shall they dwell therein. Okay, which is why ultimately we have it today. Okay, and by dwelling therein, we're living in the book, but we're obviously not literally living inside of the book, if that makes sense. And to support that or finish it off, let's go to Baruch. I think it's the 5th chapter. Let's see. Or it might be the 4th chapter. Yeah, let's go to the 4th chapter. There we go. This is Baruch chapter 4, verse. I'll just start at 1. This is the book of the commandments of God, and the law that endureth forever. All they that keep it shall come to life, but such as leave it shall die. Turn thee, O Jacob, and take hold of it. Walk in the presence of the light thereof, that thou mayest be illuminated. Right? Give not thine honor to another, nor the things that are profitable unto thee to a strange nation. O Israel, happy are we, for the things that are pleasing to the Most High are made known unto us. And that was all by way of what's written in the book, which belongs to us. Okay, so that's why it's our honor, right? That's why it's the things that are what does it say? Profitable unto us. Okay, and ultimately coming back and finishing off here in Isaiah, the 34th chapter. And so as we went through, right, this is mainly a prophecy about a future destruction, which for us now is a near future, okay, and nearer than when we believed, Lord willing, as the scriptures say, but of the destruction of this place, Babylon the Great. So in closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Recha Kodash, and Lord willing, this is edifying to the elect. Till next time, Shalom.